Welcome learners, this is Amy Copeland and today we're going to be reviewing quality control. Quality control has several functions in the laboratory. One of the functions of quality control is that it tests the operator, tests the equipment, and tests the components. Components can be part of a kit test where the cartridges need to be controlled, or could be reagents that are used within the test. Today we're going to talk about two types of quality control. One type of quality control is the internal quality control, and the other, external quality control. Internal quality control, or QC, is built into the test cartridge, the test strip, or the instrument. It's going to be a component involved in each test and not done just once. It's going to be done each time the test is used. It confirms the integrity of the reagents in the strip or the cartridge. Other terms that may be used for quality control are procedural or onboard controls or inline controls. Those all mean the same thing. Internal QC has two components within internal QC. There's a positive and a negative internal quality control. They both have to be the expected response in order for the test to be valid. The internal positive control indicates a sample is functioning properly and that the reagents are functioning as expected. Internal positive control must be present to report the patient test, and the internal negative control indicates that there's no interfering substances that may cause erroneous results. So typically an internal quality positive control would be a control line on a cartridge, which we'll review in a minute. A negative internal control is often a clear background that allows clear reading of the test results with no interference. So again, the positive result is typically a control line and a test line on a cartridge, which I have a picture on maybe the next slide. The negative patient result would be just the control bar with nothing in the test line. These must be recorded each time a patient test is recorded. And you can use a checkbox on a log or within an electronic medical record to indicate that both the internal controls gave the appropriate results. External controls are outside the test cartridge or test strip. So external controls are used like a patient sample to see if the kit yields expected results. They sometimes are included in a kit. For instance, a strep kit often has the control swabs included in it, or they may have to be purchased separately. For instance, pregnancy or HCG testing, they have to be purchased additionally to the kit. For external QC, two levels of QC must be run. Typically for a qualitative test, it's going to be a positive and a negative. If for a quantitative test, which would give you a numeric value, you would often see numbers depending on the type of laboratory testing that you're doing. Those lot numbers and expiration date must be documented, and they also must be in date for it to be valid on the quality control. The frequency of which you have to run the external quality control is up to the manufacturer or the guidelines that are given there. Examples of quality control, here's a picture. So see the C line, that would be the control line, and the test line, obviously for the testing results. So whether you're running a patient result or a quality control external sample, that test line would indicate whether it was a positive or a negative. The control line should be present on each result. So here on these test results, the first one indicates a positive. So the test line indicates that the antigen they're testing for is detected, as well as the control line indicating that the results are valid. The middle picture is a negative result. Test line does not have a line there, and the control line is there indicating the result was validated. If you do run a test with no control line, see in the third photo there, the third picture there, it's the control line is not there for either the positive or the negative testing result. So those would be invalid and would have to be repeated. In the event that you do have invalid QC, no patient testing should be performed. If there's no control line or there's no clear background, I didn't have a photo of that, but if there's any streaking or indicating that it might be ambiguous, whether you could see the control line or the testing result, that should also be indicative of invalid QC, and patients should not be reported. Positive external QC, if it didn't yield a positive result as expected, that's also invalid and you would need to repeat. And then same with the negative. If you ran the negative control and did not yield a negative result, you should always repeat before running any patients and make sure that they were the expected result before you move forward. So a few examples. So if this test was done on a patient, what would be the internal QC? So the internal QC is indicative in that control line of, that's the positive internal QC, whereas the negative internal QC is the clear background, where it's very evident that those lines are very prominent and there's no streaking or any confusion there. Often in these tests, when the sample is, at the bottom there is the sample well, when the sample is placed here, sometimes you can see where the sample wicks up the test and may not reach the control line. So if it didn't reach the control line wouldn't be there. There was an inappropriate amount of sample placed in the sample well, and that test is invalid and would need to be repeated. So what does this test tell us about the patient? So it indicates this is a mononucleosis test, and so this patient is positive for mono. So here's another picture. So this is a COVID-19 test. And so the first picture on the far left is going to be a positive result. The control line and the test line are both there. The second picture there is a negative result. There's no test line, but the control line is there indicating a valid result. However, the next two are invalid. See, there's no control line. And in the last one, there's no test line. But whether there's a test line or no, as long as the control line is not there, they would be invalid. And here again is just a strep test with the same picture. Essentially, the first two strips are positive. This does indicate the weak positive. So if a result is seen like this, where it's the positive control is weakly apparent, it's still a positive test. That's indicating that although there is maybe not as much of the antigen that you're looking for as in the first test line, that's a darker color, it's also still a positive. And then of course the negative, there is nothing to see there in the test line. And then the last two there are invalid, no control line, invalid test. So now it's your turn. You can look in here and copy this competency evaluation link into your browser, or you can review the email that was sent out for this Zoom class, and you can click the link from there. This is going to link you to 2 essay questions. So please review the information carefully. Make sure that you feel very comfortable in what internal and external QC are, and be able to share that in an essay form or paragraph form. It doesn't have to be long, but it does need to be thorough. Hope this is helpful and that you have learned a lot today. And I look forward to seeing your responses. Thank you.